Good day, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to learn about the ORena Focus Challenge. My name is Patrick. I'm from the German Cancer Research Center, and I will walk you through why we built this challenge and how our data looks like. I'm joined by two of my colleagues who will also present some sections later, Lukas and Kai, both also involved in organizing Focus. So between the three of us, we will cover the motivation for the challenge, our data set, competition tracks, and the timeline, and how you can get started. At the end, we will leave some time for questions, and the whole session is being recorded together with a Q&A, and we will post this on the challenge website afterwards. So please be aware of this recording. If you turn on your camera or if you ask a question, your video and voice may become part of the public recording. So Focus is a generally collaborative effort coordinated by Lena Meyer-Hein at the DKFZ and Thomas Weiser at Wellcome Leap and Stanford. And our clinical chairs bring surgical expertise from the universities of Pennsylvania, Purdue, and Heidelberg. We also have technical chairs that span multiple institutions around the globe. And behind them sits an executive team here at the DKFZ and at Wellcome Leap, and they have done the heavy lifting on data and infrastructure. The challenge itself is hosted within ORena, which is a new umbrella framework for surgical AI competitions, which will also host future editions. And it's sponsored by the Wellcome Leap Safe program, Helmholtz Imaging, the DKFZ Division of Intelligent Medical Systems, and receives infrastructure support from AWS. So now going into the motivation part, before I start, brief heads up, in the next couple of slides, there are also real intraoperative images, some of them quite graphic. And for those in the audience that are not familiar with such images, don't worry, feel free to look away. So this is the kind of outcome that we want to help prevent. This case study here reported describes a surgical item that was retained in a patient's abdomen and only discovered 20 years after the original operation, which is an extreme example, but it makes the stakes concrete here. For an object that is left behind can sit silently for years and then present itself as pain, infection, or a mass that mimics a tumor. Cases like this are rare, but when they happen, the consequences for the patient and the clinical and legal fallout are severe. How common is this exactly? So retained foreign object bodies are classified as never events, meaning that they are supposed to never happen, but yet they persist. A recent analysis of the US National Inpatient Sample, which covers the years 2018 to 2022, quantified contemporary incidences, risk factors, and outcomes. And the headline is that despite decades of improved protocols, the incidence has not been driven to zero. Known risk factors include emergency procedures, unexpected intraoperative changes, a higher BMI, and the associated outcomes. They include longer hospital stays and higher costs. So the key takeaway here is the procedures that have been put in place so far help, but they are not sufficient on their own. And here is why this is hard and why it is interesting from a technical standpoint. So in minimally invasive surgery, objects like sponges are deliberately placed inside the abdomen and left there for long stretches of the procedure, sometimes to soak up blood or to hold tissue out of the way. And over time, a clean white sponge becomes soaked in blood, blending into the surrounding tissue, and often ends up pushed into a corner of the cavity out of the camera's view for many minutes. So the object you need to account for at the end of the operation may not have been visible for a long time, may look nothing like it when it went in, and may be partially hidden. Tracking that object reliably across a long changing video is exactly the kind of long horizon reasoning problem that we want to put in front of modern vision language models. Before I show you how this looks in practice, let me be precise about what we mean by a foreign object. So in focus, a foreign object is any item that is introduced into the body cavity during surgery that is expected to either be retrieved or accounted for. And the most common examples are the ones I just mentioned, so surgical sponges, they absorb blood, hold tissue aside, and needles, which are used for suturing. There are also clips, they are used to seal vessels or ducts, and the definition also extends to drainages, specimen bags, elastic straps, and even biological material that has been detached and must come out, such as an excised appendix or a gallstone. Importantly, we exclude anything that stays rigidly connected to the outside world, so graspers, scissors, trocars, and the camera, and we exclude detachable instrument parts like stapler anvils. With that definition in mind, let us see how easy these objects actually are to spot to make the task tangible for you. On this screen, there are a few real frames from our videos, and each contains at least one foreign object. And I would ask you to take a few seconds to see if you can spot them. So here they are. And with those bounding boxes now drawn in, some may seem obvious in hindsight, but without temporal context, most people and even experienced clinicians struggle to find them all. And this is the reality for surgeons that doing a quick visual check and the exact perceptual challenge that we are asking the models to take on. So in the future, if a state-of-the-art model can reliably find and track these objects, it could one day serve as a second pair of eyes for intraoperative quality assurance. So I now hand over to Kai to present our data.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. Let us turn directly to the dataset, which is really the heart of this challenge. So we have a very high quality dataset thanks to our vigorous annotation pipeline. In the first three stages, we detected all foreign objects in all the videos. And in stage 4, expert annotators added instances to these foreign objects so we can track them over time. And they also added anchor moments like insertions or retrievals. Following in stage 5, we turn these annotations into questions. Some questions are generated automatically from the instance information, and some questions are newly added by expert surgeons. And these capture the clinical reasoning, which you cannot get from automation alone. And finally, in stage 6, we have a verification pass to ensure our high quality of the dataset. These questions from the annotation pipeline are then categorized into 5 main categories. So first of all, we have object recognition and identity matching. This is all about what objects can be seen, which state they are in, for example, if they are bloody, or where they are located in the body or on screen. Second of all, we have the temporal grounding. This category is all about time. Besides providing duration estimations, there are questions like this one pinpointing certain events to a time point. As a third category, we have aggregation. Aggregation is all about counting foreign objects and events, as you can see here. And next up is event understanding. Additionally to recognizing insertion and retrieval points, it is about temporal ordering of events and about understanding the visible function of the foreign objects. And lastly, we have complex reasoning. This focuses more on complex questions which combine multiple different capabilities in one question or which cannot be answered by what is being seen on screen directly. Next, let us take a look at when the training data will be available to you and what we have in stock for our test data set. So the first batch with 30 videos, including 15,000 VQA pairs, has already been released. And the second data batch, consisting of 170 lab colis, will be released on June 15th. And concerning the test data, we have 20 videos for the pre-evaluation phase And these have a mixture of seen and also unseen procedures, so also procedures from other surgical centers. And they have a mixture of in-distribution and out-of-distribution questions. And finally, these 20 videos are also representative of our final test data set, which consists of 200 videos and which are also a mixture of seen and unseen procedures and which have in and out of distribution questions. Let us have a look at the different challenge tracks in our timeline then. So we split this challenge into 3 tracks. The first track is the frame track. In this track, only single frames of surgical procedures are provided and only applicable question categories will be asked. So for example, temporal questions will not be asked for the frame track, obviously. And this is a good entry point for teams. Next up, we have the segment track. In this track, we have short procedure segments with a length of up to 5 minutes, and all question categories can be asked. But due to the limited time horizon, this track should definitely be easier than our final track. That's the procedure track. And it will have whole procedure length videos, which can have time horizons from multiple hours. So this is the ultimate challenge in long horizon video understanding, which we can offer. So if you want to partake in this challenge, you just have to go to our challenge website and you can register there. We built our challenge website up on the open source code of the Grand Challenge website. Maybe you are already familiar with that. And yeah, when being on our homepage, just click on register and follow the registration process. Once registered, you can navigate to the challenges and join any challenge you like. Of course, it's possible to take part in multiple challenges too. And in any case, we strongly recommend that you also join the forum where announcements will be posted and where all 3 challenge tracks have discussion rooms. I also want to point out that we had problems with our support email at launch and couldn't receive external mails, but we have fixed this. So should you encounter any problems in the process, feel free to contact us. Yes, here we can see our timeline. And I want to point out July 15th, where the pre-evaluation starts. And the next important date would be where the challenge closes, which is September 8th. And the results and ranks will be announced at the MICAI conference on the 1st of October. Let us also take a look at some central rules for this challenge. There is 1 team allowed per independent lab, and per team it is allowed to make 10 submissions per track in the pre-evaluation phase. And every team beating the baseline model will be invited as a co-author in the follow-up paper after the challenge. And about the allowed training resources in the frame and segment track, any public datasets are allowed as long as they are publicly available until July 15th. And it's also allowed to make manual annotations, but they need to be released on submission. And for the procedure track, datasets and models are allowed to stay private, but there still needs to be a methodological description file on submission. Yes, now about the prize pool. For this challenge, we have acquired a very big prize pool of 50,000 US dollars so far. We are still in contact and in negotiation with further sponsors, so this number could even get bigger. And we plan to allocate 20% of the prize pool to the frame track, 40% to the segment track, and 40% to the procedure track. The prize money will be divided up under the top 3 teams that beat the baseline in each track. And as of now, the prize money would look like this for the different tracks. And heads up, for the procedure track, we have 2 different rankings, one for the technical side, which is exactly the same as in frame and segment track, and one especially for clinical relevant questions. So now I will hand over to Lucas, who will continue to present you to how to get started in this challenge.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Kai, for giving such an in-depth analysis about the challenge, the different tracks, and also the prize money that you can expect. And now, last but not least, we hope to show you a path that you can follow that guide you to participate in this challenge. We tried to boil it down on the most 4 recent steps. The first one being the registration for the challenge, so that you make yourself familiar with the challenge website, look at the 3 different tracks and decide on the one that you want to participate in. You can, of course, participate in multiple tracks. After that, we recommend you to make yourself familiar, including the data tracks and the documents that we just here roughly scan through. Once you decided on a track, we recommend you to install our ORena utils Python package that we provide to you. This will also help you to manage downloading datasets and also making the evaluation for you as feasible as possible. After you downloaded the dataset, you had a look at it, you tried to understand it. Of course, it's now time to get starting, make your hands dirty and prepare your vision language pipeline that you in the next step can convert to a Docker. We recommend you here, for example, Anslav and Llama Factory, which will help you to train your VLM models. Of course, you're not restricted to both of these. You can also train pipelines by yourself. And once you're done with the model development and the Docker conversion, you can upload it, first of all, on the 15th of July to the pre-evaluation phase. And then if you beat the baseline, you will be allowed to take part in the final test phase, which allows you to take part in this challenge and become co-author of the paper. As Kai already pointed out, the registration and the tracks, we skip this part and go directly to the challenge utils and the dataset. First of all, as already pointed out, we provide you the ORena Focus Python package that you can download, as you see here. This will help you on the one hand to download the latest version of the dataset. So as you can see here, you can select a split. Right now, Heiko is the first batch. We will later also provide the second train batch. You can also split here between test and train, and also the track you want to work with. This will help you to manage training, but of course you can include further data into your pipeline. Besides that, we also host the dataset right now already on Hugging Face, so you can have a look there as well. There's also the link to the Python package. You can make yourself familiar with the different answer formats that we provide. And I think this is a very nice start to try to understand from really like high level what's the dataset about and what we expect you to be able to answer. Third, now after you're done with making yourself familiar with the dataset, we recommend you in the third step to start with the submission. Therefore, of course, first of all, the training of the VLM. Please keep in mind once you read for each individual track that you want to participate in the constraints, because depending on the track, we have different constraints regarding the VLM size. We restrict it on 2 ends. So on the one hand, the VRAM, and on the other, the inference speed. For example, for the segment track, your model needs to fit on at least max 80 gigabyte VRAM, and for each VQA pair must have a max inference speed of 15 seconds. This varies between the different tracks. Once you're done with your model development and you check the constraints, next you will convert it to a Docker image. We will, of course, in the near future provide you examples how you can provide your VLM to a Docker and then upload it on our platform. Then on the 15th of July, there will be the pre-evaluation phase where you can upload your models. You will have 10 tries to make your model better than the baseline. So the next step, of course, will be going back and train your model if you're not better than the baseline. Once you surpass the baseline, you're allowed to take part in the final test leaderboard, which gives you a shot to win part of the prize money. After understanding now the whole process from making yourself familiar with the tracks, dataset, and of course the model training and submission, we now want to give you in the next 2 slides an overview about the validation. We try to keep it very simple. Therefore, we, as basic known to the VLM community, we stayed with accuracy as main metrics of choice. Depending on the answer formats, we have different ways to verify the answer. For open-ended questions, we will use LLM as a judge, and we will use up to 3 LLMs with majority vote to decide if the answer is right or wrong. We have also special cases. As you saw in previous slides, time steps is very crucial. Here, we will also provide a time window. This will be also handled in the Python package, that depending on the length of the video clip, we allow some space between the ground truth to still count as true. This is all already included in the Python package that we provide to you to help you and make it as accessible for you as possible to take part in this challenge, that you can really focus on training your models, and we take care of the data and the evaluation for you, and you can really focus on model training and including more data in the pipeline. last but not least, after you did your job, you submitted your model, you're allowed to take part in the final test leaderboard. Then it's our turn where we will verify the models and we will decide on the final ranking. This is split into 3 steps. The first one will be that we will group questions depending on the 5 capabilities that you saw in previous slides, so recognition, temporal grounding, aggregation, event understanding, and reasoning. Afterwards, we will compute scores with bootstrapping on each category within and out of distribution questions. We will have in the final test data 2 types of VQA pairs, one that will be in distribution with respect to procedure type or question type, and some questions will be also out of distribution from unseen procedures or unseen question types. After the bootstrapping, we will merge the rankings. Therefore, we will use CopeLank as ranking method, which will help us to decide the winner of the challenge. So the model that won most bootstrapping will at the end be the winner of the individual track. To already get you excited and show you what we can expect from the models, we just recently submitted a paper to NeurIPS, which will be also soon on arXiv. Here already some initial results to give you some information how current zero-shot models perform. As you see, for the frame track, we have results between 15% accuracy up to 55%. Of course, with fine-tuning, we expect results here between 50 to 70, 80%. Same also for the segment track. Here we have also results in a similar range between 20% up to 55%. We expect here the same boost as for the frame track. And finally, for the procedure track, here we only had 3 models that were included, as the others model were not feasible to process so long videos. These were able to process up to 1-hour videos. Of course, at the end, it will be up to you how you do the frame selection to make your model also process long videos. But as you see here, we have performances between slightly under 20% up to slightly up to 40%. But of course, the procedure track is by far the hardest one, but also the most exciting one to participate in. With that being said, this rounds up this presentation. We hope to get yourself excited. As you see, we have a lot of prize money. We have a big team and a super interesting research question that probably you might be also interesting to follow up after this challenge. And now I will hand over to Patrick, who will in the next step manage the Q&A to allow you also to ask questions to us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Lucas, for giving those insights. Now it's your chance to either raise your hands or use the chat to pose any immediate questions. As you've seen, we have also a lot of material online at our website, if it's about all the tiny details, but in case there is something urgent that has not been clarified or you are unsure about, feel free to post them now. So there is one question in the chat. For the time budget, 5 seconds in the frame track, 15 seconds in the segment track, and 30 seconds in the procedure track. Does the timer include one-time video preprocessing and detection setup, or is it preprocessing allowed to be amortized at container init before any per question timer starts? So this is actually the full processing time from the loading of the frame or the video to like the answer generation part, which is tough, especially for the detection setup. We realize this, but I mean, coming from the application side, if you want to apply this in the OR at some point, you have to, I mean, surgeons wouldn't want to wait like minutes of pre-processing at that point. Second question coming in. Hello, thanks for organizing such a nice competition. Are there any plans to release some sort of baseline model together with training scripts. So if you look at the Python package that Lucas presented, there is like a very simple example how to use a model out of the box for inference. For a training script, we have not planned to release something. And with respect to the baseline model, we will give you, in addition, soon an example how, if you have a model, how to package that into the Docker container and upload it. And we will have the baseline model that we will develop ourselves on the leaderboard as the bar to enter. Does that answer the question? Yes. Okay, great.
Hi, Patrick. My name is Gabe. I'm actually a surgeon in New York City at Mount Sinai. And so, maybe as just a little extra motivation to everybody on this call, I mean, the surgical community is starting to pay progressively more attention to this kind of activity. And I'm really glad to see you guys and the team putting this together. And so, I think with time, more health systems and surgeons will be recognizing this need and wanting to add individuals like yourselves to our teams. So, good luck to everybody.
Thank you for that comment. I mean, as we pointed out, you're always free to also reach out to our support email. We had some hiccups at the beginning with that, and sorry if any mail got unnoticed, but it's now always hopefully accessible. Another question: can you share how much VRAM we need for each challenge track? For example, do we need more than 32 gigabytes of GPU VRAM? This would help me estimate it based on my current GPU budget. So, I mean, how much you actually need depends on the model size and the, kind of models that you put together in your pipeline. At max, you have for the frame track 48 gigabytes, and for the procedure and segment track 80 gigabytes of VRAM. Maybe I think Lucas, you have put together some examples already. Maybe you can share your actual need.
Yeah, so I think this question is probably, as I understand it correctly, you were interested how much you need probably to train such a model, if I understand it correctly. If so, I try to answer it from that standpoint. Yes, great. From the experiments we had right now with development, also the baseline models, I mean, as a presented, there's an option, for example, Anslov, but also Llama Factory, and they allow a lot of different ways to make your model fit also on smaller GPUs. So on the one hand, of course, you can do parameter efficient fine tuning. Maybe you heard about LoRa before, which already allows you to reduce a lot of the big fine tuning. Instead of going for full fine tuning, you can select smaller weights of models. So maybe instead of starting from zero, you take, for example, a latest state-of-the-art VLM like Qwen, for example. You can include, besides LoRa, also quantification of the models. Instead of loading in 16-bit, you can use 18-bit, which also heavily reduces it. So with 32 gigabyte, you can already do quite a lot. Of course, for the frame and segment track, for a procedure track, it will be up to how you will do probably the reduction of the input, so how you do the frame selection. But yeah, 32 gigabyte is already pretty good. Of course, the more the better, because it will allow you to also train bigger models. But yeah, it's already good enough for at least the frame and the segment track. I hope this answers your question.
There a follow-up on this? Seems like that. Thanks, Lucas. Next question. Hello. Thanks a lot for the organization. I'm not entirely sure what the restrictions are regarding the use of external data sets. Yeah, so this is slightly different between the three tracks. The frame and the segment track, they are more traditionally in the sense, so there it is required that any data that you use must be public data, or at least public data by July 15th, when the pre-evaluation starts. If you do like additional annotations on existing data sets, for example, you take another video data set and add for an object annotations on top of that, then you use that in your training pipeline, then you are required to also release those additional annotations after your submission. And the procedure track is much more open and freely. In this case, you do not have to restrict yourselves to public data sets. You can also use private data sets. You can use industry internal models, etc. What we still ask you is to disclose your methodology so that the research landscape still benefits from the contribution. But here, this track is really like to push the state-of-the-art frontier and be also more open for industry. So we are not requiring their strict model publishing or disclosure. Next question. Hello, ORena is a very meaningful competition. I would like to ask, which specific LLM is being used for the evaluation? Is this information publicly available? So in order to prevent overfitting, I mean, I think you're talking about the judges that are used in the end to judge whether a certain open-ended question answers or is aligned with the reference answer there. So in order to prevent overfitting to specific judges, yes, exactly. Yeah, we will have first, the first measure is that we will use three different LLMs that apply a majority vote. And second, we will not disclose the exact judges that we will use. In the Python package that we have released, there is an example how they are loaded and how they can be prompted. But this does not, I mean, this is like representative of how it is done, so you can rely on that, but it prevents overfitting to specific judges in the end. All right. Any further questions at this point? I hope I haven't missed some. So wait, there's one more comes in. Question, at the evaluation time, will our Docker container receive all test questions for a track at once as a single JSON or list of requests, or will it be invoked once per question with isolated states? In other words, when answering question Q at time T, index Q, can our model see the text of other questions in the same tracks tested? No, this is particularly prevented because like there could be questions that give like hints on the answers of other questions. So it's really like treated every question in isolation. There is no state that is preserved between any two VQA inferences. Then there is another question about NLP related metrics like BLEU1, BLEU4, ROOK-L, Meteor, etc. So nothing prevents you to use additional metrics while you develop. But for the evaluation of and for the ranking at the end of the challenge, we will stick to the accuracy based on the judged correctness of answers. Keep also in mind that it's not only about open-ended questions. Sometimes we have like counting questions where we know, or everyone knows, that the answer must be an integer. So every answer that is not an integer is first rejected, and if it's an integer, then it's not judged but directly compared. And there are also, like as Luca said, there are timing questions where we have like a certain window of tolerance. All right, let's see. Sometimes typing takes a while, but if we do not receive more questions or more raised hands in the next couple of seconds, I think we can close the session. Thank you all for your attention, for your interest in the challenge. We are very much excited about how far we can push the current state of the art, and what long-term impact this challenge and future editions can make on surgical safety, in particular on retained foreign objects. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye bye.
Bye.